Senator Spence, that actually under the language you have in the bill on this issue, the local the statute does not mandate that a center be open from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. It just limits them to operation within that window. Somebody could decide only 2 hours a day. Again, you know, it's a local decision for local communities. You're allowing in this bill local communities to completely prohibit their operation. So this argument that the locals, you know, want to make sure people have access during reasonable times when you're empowering them to completely prohibit, I don't really buy. You know, we have pharmacies that advertise themselves as 24-hour availability. Go to your Walgreens or somewhere for whenever, you know, you need to get your prescription filled. And there are some businesses that market themselves to serve, you know, those kind of emergency situations, things that happen at all hours when people need, you know, a prescription drug. I don't know that that isn't a decision that a local community may not want to make. This isn't a big point. I mean, this isn't a hill to die on about this bill. This isn't going to make or break how I vote on this bill. I just think this is the right way for us to write state statute. When you look at what we're doing here with this strong local control approach and saying that there's a state license and a local licensing authority, and that the local authorities make all of these different decisions about zoning and proximity to schools or colleges or child care facilities. Why not let the local licensing authority decide what are the hours of operation that make sense for their community? This is empowering local communities. This is honoring the local control approach of this legislation. I don't think it should be such a big stink. I would ask for an aye vote.
Senator Romer.
Prohibited from schools. Yeah, members, I would ask for no vote. Again, we're starting to go down a slippery slope of things we asked not to have happen because of the delicate nature. You know, I talked to a couple different people who said this was the most bizarre vote they had ever seen in the House, and Senator Spedman and I spoke very carefully to you about that. So now you're going down a slope that could endanger the entire bill for a portion of an issue that you say is not to die for, and yet now this becomes an issue that basically the House is going to ask for. So again, folks, look, we do this for liquor, we do this in bars, we sort of certain state guardrails. This puts the guardrail on a controlled substance basically at 7 o'clock at night. I think it's a common sense thing to stick with. I think we're starting to go down the hippy-dippy path that we're basically going to lose this bill on, and I'd ask for a no vote.
Question is the adoption of Floor Amendment 162. Division has been requested. Those who are not eligible to vote, please be seated. Those in favor of Floor Amendment 162, please rise. Gibbs just stood up.
Local control.
Well, just stay standing. Sit down, cop. Sit down, cop.
Yeah.
If you give me a minute, time is up.
Please be seated. Those opposed, please rise.
Get a, hey, get Chris.
The hippy-dippy.
No, you should seriously do it.
I don't know why you think this is working. Give me a break. This is just a local control philosophical issue.
Yeah, but I think the recreational users are the ones that want to use after 7 o'clock.
The amendment is adopted. Mr. McGowan, please read Floor Amendment 165.
Amendment 165 House Bill 24 by Senator Stedman. Amendment regress spell page 31 after line 16 insert.
Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L165. This will also be interesting. This has to do with an issue that a number of property owners have spoken to me about regarding the location of grow operations. And what the amendment says is that any application for a license and any license information about optional premises, and that's the euphemism we use in the statute for grow operations, that those licenses and application documents will be exempt from the Colorado Open Records Act, and that the local and state licensing authorities will keep them confidential, but that they may share them with law enforcement. I have talked to a number of people that have grow operations or landowners that are actually leasing land for people to put a greenhouse up. I talked to a farmer from Weld County at the Cannabis Convention a few weeks ago who told me he's leasing out space on his farm in Weld County to people that have erected a greenhouse and are growing medical marijuana there. And he would prefer that his neighbors and anybody else who might be interested in breaking into the greenhouse or coming and raiding the place for nefarious purposes not necessarily have such easy access to information telling them where is the location of these greenhouses that are growing, what's, as I understand it, tens of thousands of dollars worth of medical marijuana, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of plants in these warehouses or greenhouses. If you think about it, they are probably targets for people wanting to break in, people wanting to commit armed robbery to get to that very valuable product that has, value either in this market or in the illegal black market. I don't think this is an inappropriate restriction of information. I think this makes a lot of sense to say that somebody who is, dispensaries are going to have a storefront. We have signage regulation provisions in here. Everyone's going to know where the centers are. But where there are greenhouses with these large concentration of a very valuable product, if that person doesn't want that to be well publicized, if they don't want someone to be able to look it up on the internet or do an open records request and get the address of every grow operation in the state, I think this is an issue of public safety. I think it makes sense. I think it still works for the licensing authorities and the law enforcement agencies to have this information, but not have it be a matter of public record. Again, this applies only to optional premises licenses, which is the location of grow operations. Something I've heard a lot about as I've met with people, and I thought it was a reasonable amendment to offer today.
Senator Romer.
Senator Sedman, say here. So Senator Sedman, let me understand what you're basically saying, because we went through a debate about this, about posting, and we removed the provision that required optional grow licenses to be posted. So there originally was some provisions in the bill required them to actually have a signage, which we thought obviously caused a public safety concern, because you don't want to tell people, hey, this warehouse is a grow operation. You're taking that one step farther, which removes the open records, where basically only law enforcement, so the local government and law enforcement would know, but an average citizen can't go into the city of Boulder or the Adams County and then pull up through Cora the records of that. Is there any way to make sure that at least there's an address or some type of address that the person can be identified so the public knows who has the licenses, but they can't tell where they are? That's my concern, which is there's a certain compromise here of knowing who is doing it. Your issue is location and public security, so I want to make sure what you're doing here.
Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Romer, what this does is it exempts from the Colorado Open Records Act the applications and the license information for optional premises. So the state licensing authority will still know this information. The local licensing authority will still know this information. Law enforcement will still know this information. But the average person can't walk in off the street, either to the state health department or to whatever local licensing authority, city, county it is, and ask for open records to get the lists of all the grow locations. However, because of your business model that you are mandating upon this industry through this legislation of vertical integration and your 70-30, all the grow operations are connected somehow to a retail center, which everyone's going to understand where those are, and those are going to be, open records and have signs or, advertising or whatever else so that people know where they are. This is just saying that the warehouses that are tucked away in my district or the greenhouse that's tucked away on this gentleman's farm somewhere in rural Weld County that I spoke to last month are not necessarily going to be on a list that's discoverable through the Open Records Act.
Senator Romer.
Thank you, and with that explanation, I'll support this.
Question is the adoption of Floor Amendment 165. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 165 is adopted. Mr. McGowan, please read floor amendment 140.